Why do you think Gen Z women are obsessed with astrology?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask about women because I don't really talk to women.
We are servants of a false idol. You chose fear. Now we are lost.
First of all, astrology is real. If you're a Catholic, if you're a Christian, this is actually part of our tradition. Astrology is all over the Bible. And the reason as Catholics we can't engage in astrology is because there's something real about it. And to engage in it is to attempt to thwart God's plan.
Right.
It's to sort of say that we are masters of fate. And if we can learn the secrets of the universe, we can control our destiny when God controls our destiny. And that's why we appeal to God. So astrology is real.
Do you think numerology is real as well?
I do.
Really?
I do.
That's
Because
something
they
I've
use it.
looked into. It's really fascinating. It feels like one of the people's thing with astrology and numerology manifestation is that oh, it's also general, like it's not actually real. But like when I look into it, I don't know. I see some very specific similarities that make it feel real. And I'm Christian as well, so I know that I won't ask you this, but just my personal belief is like, I do think that there's something there that if you do it in a way that it's aligned with God, it's probably okay. But do you not see it as aligned with God in general?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Jesus didn't do it. So it's like,
Exactly, right.
do you think women should have fewer rights than men?
Generally speaking, yes.
Hey, maybe that means something. Nick Fuentes, official believer of astrology and numerology, and I would assume paganism in general, things that he believes is very evil and should be eradicated. I'm not going to give my opinions on all of that. The fact that I'm doing a bunch of stuff already, I mean, why not, right? Oh, the fuck. Why not just see what the cards say and work with that? Interesting. You know, I've done a reading for Nick Fuentes before with a friend, and I think we got these same cards. Or maybe it might have been someone else. I think it was Nick Fuentes. I mean, what we know about him is that he's a Leo sun. Leo, the destructive fire energy. Destroys, but also builds, right? What is he destroying? The right wing as we know it. And what is he creating? I don't know. The right as we will know it in the future, which is also the traditional right? They don't like the Jays. They don't like the African Americans. They don't like Indian people. I mean, actually, funny enough, Adolf, he did like Indian people. Not Indian people, but he liked the Indian culture, the Indian society. Interesting thing about like racialists, and I think racialist would be the right term to use. Racialism was invented by Nazis, I believe. I think it was a philosophy developed by Nazis that eventually became what we know as racism. And it is a belief that the races are distinct from each other. And racism specifically is the belief that, you know, your race is superior to others and that the others should be subjugated. All of these things are important to keep in mind, right? So we got Judgment, Reverse Hanged Man, and Knight of Wands for Nick Fuentes. And we got some mystery cards. I forgot what one of them was. But we'll do a little bit of clarification with these folks. Judgment. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Nick Fuentes is a very judgmental person. He's judgmental of the established right. He's also judgmental of other cultures, other people. He's judgmental of Zionism and AIPAC. He's judgmental of those specific billionaires. And overall, I do believe he has a very complex way of looking at the world. There are some things that I do think that he just doesn't bother to go deeper into. And that's just something that I believe will take time for any individual. Hopefully he doesn't let the fame get to his head. What happens when people finally become famous is that they dig their heels and they stick to what has gotten them this far. And to some extent, Nick Fuentes is already at that point. He has been reinforced and encouraged to do what he does because he has support, and he will never abandon that support. That is his subconscious work. So the idea that Nick Fuentes could ever become a person who decides, you know what, it's not the Jays who are really like a threat. It's the powers that be, that is a very mixed conglomerate that are kind of like above race. It's not that race is completely out of their mindset, but race is just a small facet of it. And I do think Nick Fuentes has the potential to go down that route, though, which would probably bring us to this reverse hanged man. And funny enough, next to the Knight of Wands is something pretty important, and we'll get more into that in a second. You know, look at that Unabomber manifesto for the Knight of Wands. Hanged man in general is already like, you know, you're stuck. But reverse hanged man kind of tells you that maybe you need to like really start dissecting your own way of looking at the world and cutting certain things out, certain things that are not going to be very helpful for you in the long run. Personally, that's what I'm getting from this, and right next to judgment. Let's do, all right, so we'll get, okay. Before we get into these, this is interesting. We look at Knight of Wands, which is the Unabomber manifesto. We could look at this as the Knight of Wands. Recently, I got a message to start focusing on the pictures more, so that might be, I mean, judgment and ethics go hand in hand, right? But that might be interesting to go into more deeply, because I do think Nick Fuentes kind of, and this is just a personal bias of mine, so forgive me, but I do think Nick Fuentes eventually is going to start focusing more on what the real large problem is. It's not the Jays. You know, if you eradicated all the Jays, which, you know, I know many of those folks out there want to, it's not going to like lead to a magical fairyland where everything is fixed. If anything, we're just going to be like, it's kind of like when you finally, if you're someone who's a drug addict and you're chasing a high, if you finally get that high, you just feel incredibly empty afterwards, and then you're just chasing the high again. There's something much deeper and wrong with society as is. The global economy has a lot more to do with it. There's a decent percentage of industry, of media, and of government that has given a lot of power to a handful of individuals, many of them who do have specific interests that are very destructive to American interests and to people who are probably more on the conservative side and care about, you know, what's going to happen to the white race and all that stuff. And sure, you can, even if you eradicated all of them, do you really think that this is all going to end? If you believe that, you know, the Zion folks, if it was all, do you really believe that it's all going to just get better? There's a clear problem that is much greater than that. It's called it's a looming threat. We should all be having panic attacks over it. So, you know, start thinking about the ideas and how to achieve them, right? All right, and let's get that clarification for that Eight of Swords. Okay. All right, so when it comes to, you know, him on ethics, we're getting like insight, right? This is like, it's very new to him in some sense to like really start creating a new way of judging society. He's always been so good at being like a, for lack of a better term, bigoted, right? He's misogynistic, racist, homophobic, yada yada. Because he is engulfing himself heavily in the political tides of the world, the powers that be, eventually, a guy like him, he's gonna not be able to look past a new way of looking at things that is going to give him quite a lot of clarity. It's going to help him deal with the fact that he is kind of stuck in this limbo of just like conservative wanking, as we should say. The Dutch writer wanking. If you guys know what I'm talking about, then whatever. It's quite a lot of stuff. It's one thing to create this like conflict-driven ideology. Possibly in the back of his mind, he's a Cancer moon, which is the more nurturing side. He's a fiery Leo, but a Cancer moon. I think deep down, subconsciously, unfortunately, he's got to like do some heavy work maybe to get there, but there's a part of him that wants humanity to thrive and actually like become better and get past this like more slimy, icky side of ourselves. The bigotry, the hate, the exploitation and domination and slavery. Those things are just so detrimental to humanity as a whole. It's inherently conflict. There was this one right-winger talking about how like the minorities in America have a good reason to like be afraid of white people and white society, and that is what makes them dangerous. And so like it's funny that they just want to encourage fascist thinking, understanding that just makes it more dangerous for everyone. It's like, oh yeah, black people should be afraid. It makes sense that black people are afraid of police, and that's why black people are dangerous. That's a very interesting way of looking at the world. And I do think really the answer to that is to just kind of embrace this concept of doing it for the betterment of society. What truly betters society? Trying to find ways to unite us. That's just my opinion, though. And so what's keeping Nick Fuentes from being the Knight of Wands, from being able to just charge forward with this really like much more important way of addressing the problems of the world? And I do think that to some extent that's what stops us all, which is just we are not strong enough as a people to take down the true threats of humanity. And so to some degree, this is what we're all struggling with right now. How can we convince the right that this like mass deportation and even what they're calling is a re-immigration, which is just ethnic cleansing? How do we convince them that that's not the way forward if we don't even know how we're supposed to take down the biggest threat to humanity? It's very possible that, his subconscious is kind of aware of all of this, and yet, what is he going to do about it? It's just easier to stick with what he's known this whole time. And that's why we have this problem over here. He is so ready to become someone way more like enlightened and revolutionary, but he really is stuck. All right, so we're going to do a past, present, future for him now. Just like something to get a much more clarity maybe on like what should we expect for our boy, Nick Fuentes. Because... are you pointing at me? All right, so that's the future, present, past. All reversals. Okay. So reverse Seven of Swords for the past. Typically, Seven of Swords would be like you're hiding what you want to say. You're not saying what you really want to say. But reverse Seven of Swords is like you're finally just getting it out. And that's kind of what Nick Fuentes is known for. Just getting out the most like, darker ways of conservative thought. Present, we have Ace of Cups reversed, which is a bit of a sad one. Now, in that interview from the clip, he had also said that he doesn't really trust anyone, maybe besides his parents, but he has trouble making friends and he has trouble trusting people. And that makes perfect sense. The reverse Ace of Cups says that you have trouble making friends. You have trouble making a new connection, anything like meaningful with someone. And that's very sad, And then reverse World for his future, that's a bit bleak as well. Especially considering this, the fact that he's currently lonely. I think he's gonna. Now, this doesn't mean an indefinite future. It just means it could be near future. It could be indefinite future. It could be maybe further down the line. I think it is kind of like a bit of quasi both. It's both near future and indefinite, where he's gonna have trouble with coming to terms with anything in his life, coming to terms with the difficulties of his life. I feel like right now he's doing the rounds on the podcast and being able to get a lot of support and people love him. And that's got to feel good. But he knows he knows already though that it doesn't mean much. I'm not a fan of what he believes, but I understand he's a smart guy, and I think he's very in tune with what's going on in his reality to some degree, right? Of how difficult it's going to be for him to find people that he truly loves and trusts. And that's kind of where it's going. I think he's going to have a difficult journey when it comes to connection, when it comes to finding the solution to his problems, both individually and also socially and globally. I think there are going to be a lot of questions that are going to go unanswered. He might even have a crisis of faith. His world might turn upside down. Okay, well, one more card just to fucking conclude, because I don't know. Let's just see. What do we get out of this? What should I... Alright, fuck it. So he is on a fool's journey. There's a lot that he doesn't know. But luckily, he's just kind of going into he's always been the kind of guy who just goes into the world, says what he says. He sticks to his guns a little too hard. He hasn't grown much from when he started saying things. He kind of believes in the same thing. He's just kind of he's been disillusioned by politics, but that's not the same as growing in your beliefs. He's still, if anything, he's just more of a neocon than anything. He's kind of leading down that route. So he's kind of all over the place. He's kind of on almost like a psychedelic journey, really. His very intense spiritual journey. It may not go well. It may not go well for us either. People who want a world that is less racist. Otherwise, this is quite an adventure for him. He's learning a lot. And his spirit is learning a lot. So even if he doesn't get what he wants in this life, this is a good life path right now. All right, so that's it.